Morning, everybody. It's a little windy. I hope this sounds okay. I got some Leonardo pens. Someone asked that I do a comparison of Leonardo nibs, and I thought that I would just do elastic nibs. I can do a second video that would show the different sizes, but there's enough to say about the elastic nibs that I thought that would make its own video. Now, I am not a pro about these kinds of things. These kinds of I'm not the kind of collector that really gets in on loves the details. I'm a collector who likes the colors and the nibs and the people I deal with in getting the pens. So, but my understanding that is initially Leonardo Officina Italiana used Bach nibs. Then they switched to Jowo nibs. I can't tell the difference really. Then they switched to Jowo nibs, and I believe that switch was complete in early 2021. Now, it may be that some Bach nibs are coming back into play, like particularly in the number 8 nibs. Not really sure about that. But there's a Jowo Bach thing going on here. I can't tell the difference. You know, it's either a good, well-tuned nib or it's not. Here's the thing about Leonardo. I have never had a pen from them that didn't work out of the box, that didn't work well out of the box. This cannot be said about all brands or all luxury brands. They take great care in their nibs. I believe they test every one before it leaves the factory. They fit their nibs to their feet. So I have not gotten into the habit of changing nibs around on pens because they are so well seated to the feed, which they cut in-house, well seated to the feed and fit into the section. So I kind of take what I can get. Now, I did recently get a couple of loose nibs from Leonardo that I might swap out on some steel nibbed pens, but that's not really my thing with them because their nibs are so great that I buy enough of them that I get a variety of nibs by buying other pens. So there we are. Anyway, we're gonna do this very quickly from oldest to newest. The oldest one I have is the Art Deco series. This isn't the first one I got, but this is an Art Deco from the first series, 2019, with an elastic nib. And then we have the elastic steel nib on this Tredici pen that I just got. And we have some other things in between. You'll see lots of Brooks colors here and some celluloid and acrylic and ebonite. So we have a range of materials on these pens, but the nibs are all in the EFF elastic range, except for I'm going to show you a number 8 nib that is not elastic. One more thing, and I say this, I'll repeat this in the video just so to make it clear. Leonardo does not call their nibs flexible, they call them elastic. And I think that's appropriate. They have some spring, they have bounce, you do get line variation with pressure. So the way I define an elastic or a flex nib is that will changes in pressure produce a change in line? So for instance, an architect nib would produce a line change by change in orientation of the nib to the paper. This, a flexible or an elastic nib will change with regard to changes in pressure on the page. But a true flex nib, the tines will kind of spread and come back together as you do that. And on the Leo nibs, that happens very, very little. On a Scribo, happens a lot. On a Santini, happens a lot. On a classic Waterman vintage flex, happens a lot. And the trick is to make a flex pen where those tines will flex and allow more ink to flow without losing their connection to the nibs, where you get to the tines, where you get railroading. That's a quality nib. And a really good nib is easy to spring, and I done sprung some. So, okay, let's take a look at these nibs. Well, I thought I would start with an older Leo. This is a fine flex, and it's in the Art Deco. This is a little bit of a cheat because this will be dipped. Most of the others are fully inked. But I wanted to start with this pen because at one point the Leo pens were Bach, and then they switched to Jowo. I think this is Bach. So, whoops. This is the Art Deco original, 2019 maybe, 2020, something like that. And it's fine flex. And you see there's line variation, not lots. I would call it a very, very soft nib rather than an actual, oh, look at it, got ink everywhere. I hope that washes off. Something's gone crazy with my ink. Anyway, I would call it a super soft pen rather than flexible necessarily, okay? And then we have, that, by the way, that was Survivor Blue Wall Eversharp ink. And this is another fine flex, and I believe this is after we've moved to Jowo, although they look the same, so what do I know? This is inked with Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red, and this is the Golden Rule. It's also a fine flex. And again, I wouldn't really call it super flexible. You do get line variation with differences in pressure. And note that Leonardo calls their pens elastic, not flexible, right? So there's a lot of range in elastic and flexible nibs. And I would say this is at the end of being super, super soft. All right, so that's a fine flex. This is an extra fine flex. What a beautiful pen. Actually, I haven't inked this up yet. So this is the Dutch Super Show pen. So we'll just dip that, buddy. I think I got a dip on it. And this is extra. See, it's a little bit thinner. Now I would say, although you can't really see a super lot of difference, it is even softer than the other two, right? So it's even more responsive. Oh my God, this ink is everywhere. There's more responsiveness to the pen with the finer flex. Look at that, what a mess. Then more recently, this is a Supernova. It's another fine flex, and I believe this is what am I? You know, forget it. I don't know what I'm talking about. Bach and Jowo. Anyway, now here's the thing. You're not seeing a lot of line variation, but I think this is the best nib I have from Leonardo. It's just smooth and soft and luscious, and I'm really crazy for the nib on this pen. I'm less crazy for the pen itself, but that's a whole other story. Then I thought it might be fun to see the number 8 nib. Let's see that next to a number 6. Now the 8 nib is not a flex nib, but look at that big boy. It's not an elastic nib. It is a, oh my gosh. It is a extra fine though. So just dip that. And it's still super smooth, and actually it's a slight give to it, but nothing like the others. But it's not a nail either. And then one more that I wanted to show, and this is the first time I've written with it. This is the Tredici, and it has the steel elastic nib on it. So let's see how this goes. Okay, there's some bounce here, not nearly as much as in the gold nibs, but I have to tell you, what a feeling. That's a very smooth, nice writer, although the flex bit is quite minimal, but I might have to play with it some more. And I would say it writes kind of like a medium, unless I am very, very light with it. So, there we go. Little quick look at some Leonardos and their elasticity and some very inky sherry fingers. Again, I don't have great handwriting, and I am not adept at using flexible nibs, even though I started out my collecting journey with Waterman pens. But what I like is a nib that is really responsive, and that's what I can say for sure about all of these Leonardo nibs. Even the steel one, and actually even a little bit the number 8, which is not an elastic nib. They have responsiveness. The elastic nibs have much more, and so it makes for a much more pleasurable writing experience and a nice line on the page. Hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you later.